it was an avenue that I hadn't necessarily explored. It's one that Miranda had asked me to reach out and had reminded me that several people in our church for a long period of time had been trying to reach out to me, and that I wasn't necessarily open to receiving coaching or feedback. I think when you're desperate and when you're at your wit's end with something, you'll try other solutions, ones that you find that you think are unconventional, or ones that maybe you're skeptical about, but what other choice do you have? From that standpoint, it can't hurt. And I'd had a relationship with Sterling, kind of a superficial relationship previous to that point, but on good terms. And I reached out to Sterling pretty quickly thereafter, and Sterling responded pretty quickly. And I think for years Sterling had been making bids or an offer, to become closer. In Sterling's case too, he was very patient and waited for opportunities. So, in my situation, there was a lot of hurt, there was a lot of frustration, and he was able to kind of see through that, get to the main points of I guess the Bible teachings that he wanted to kind of reinforce. Then he'd have me come to my own conclusions, and I think that's one of the ways that we learn the best is by coming to your own conclusion. But he would nudge kind of in a direction where he thought it might get me to that point. We did some Bible studies together, and I thought those were very effective. But just listening to him, what he had to say, his patience, and after a period of time, I realized, what Sterling, how his learning style was structured. So it was easier for me to come to a conclusion faster. It didn't take as long. But he was discreet. He kept things to himself. I think that was helpful, and that I could absolutely trust him. And I knew that, what Sterling and I talked about was confidential between he and I, and that I knew he had our best intentions. He cared a lot about Miranda and I, and that was evident. So I think, from that standpoint, it made it easier to open up to Sterling because we knew he cared, and he cared about both Miranda and I. It wasn't, this is a Scott issue or this is a Miranda issue. He loved us both, so that made it easier to be open with him. For years, Matt, I thought that it would, a disciple or a mentor would look a certain way or be obvious, and I found that just through the experiences that I've seen is to be open-minded and to try to listen and be self-aware of when God's trying to speak, and then to be quiet and listen. Am I ready? I don't think you're ever ready to a certain degree. I think that you learn as you go along, and but I think, yeah, I'm ready for discipleship, or at least to help others in ways in which I've been helped, or maybe different ways, that I can't anticipate. I think it's a dynamic thing, but I think I'm ready from that standpoint. I think I'm ready to help other people, and I'm not always going to have the right answer, but I'll learn along the way, like my mentors have with me.